welcome back to a build update of the Revell 59 Ford Skyliner kit. Well, we've got a bunch going on here, more than meets the eye, and we'll get to that here in a second. So right now, let me get the guys out of the way. Duke and Lori, you gotta move. Zach, you're in the way. Wayne, I know, we'll talk about it. TJ, Lee, and Tim, and we got Mr. and Mrs. Skyliner sitting inside. So let me move a few things back and we'll start with them. Mr. Skyliner is sporting a brown shirt, black tie, gold military type buckle, and some gray pants and boots with a nice Scottish type tie and some Ray-Bans. Notice he got a trim on his mustache today too, just for this. Mrs. Skyliner is wearing an awful glossy shirt that we're going to have to tone down with some flat. Gray matching pants to match Mr. Skyliner, and a new do. She's looking pretty good. The seats are two-tone, well, three-tone, white, black, and red. I saw this online and I really fell in love with the colors. So this is where we're headed. I think we're going to be doing good with that. The back seat, just the same. Now the door panels. The door panels are going to be red on top, black, of course, and then this is going to be bare metal foil, and the center will be black. And I'm holding off on doing the center until the rest of it dries hard, just so I can get my thumb on there without making all kinds of problems. And then the top will be the Molotov pen, or maybe even bare metal foil. We'll see, along with the bottom here too. That'll all be bare metal foil with little black circles all the way down. So the interior, doing good. Next up is the engine. I took some craft wire and made a little engine stand. I kind of like it. Check that out. Really simple, quick and easy. The engine is detailed out as best as I can do with it. The starter got painted gloss black with the Tamiya's titanium gold. The front end, we got the belts painted rubber black. The generator pulley, we painted with the flat aluminum, like I always do. I used buff, I believe it was, for the, I'm sorry, no I didn't. I used dark yellow for the distributor cap. Here, let me pull this off real quick, if I can. There we go. For the distributor cap, flat aluminum for the vacuum breaker. Vacuum advance. It didn't have one of those, so I kind of just made one. I turned down some sprue with a drill and a file, and then sanded it up nice, drilled a hole in the center of it, and glued it on. And I think it fits the bill pretty good. The wires, I do have a little touch up to do because the air cleaner comes down and actually touches the top of the wires. But I ran them over the top and grouped them together and then brought them back down and onto the distributor cap. Same with that side. It's the way I've seen them in every picture, so I followed that up. I took some flat white and my 4-aught brush and made a label on the belt. And then the back got the transmission got the typical Tamiya's Tamiya's panel liner, and that went really well. Let me bring this back up. It just, I don't try to make it to where it's dirty. I just try to bring up some of the detail in there. Same with the fuel pump and the fuel filter, the top of it. And I think that did a pretty good job. I used my 32 gauge or 32 AWG enameled wire for the return spring and just solder that I didn't paint, I use for the fuel wire, or the fuel line. Let me grab something a little more shiny than that. The heater hose on here, I had to run that. I wanted to run it underneath the spark plugs because this is the way I've seen it also, where it runs underneath, wraps around. This one's the one that goes in right about here in the intake, and then there'll be another one that'll come here, and it'll just kind of come up and around, and it'll follow on the outside of the spark plugs. And that's the way those, it'll run farther out and clear the spark plugs, give it room. But this one comes up and into the top of the intake. So I wrapped it up around. This is supposed to be, I think, the vent. I wrapped it around there. That's why I haven't glued my air cleaner on yet, is I still have to run the vacuum line to the master cylinder over here. So that's why this is still loose on there. But I wanted to put it on. I drilled that out. Let me see if I can get this to focus here. I drilled out the opening for the air cleaner using just a couple of the pin vices, the small ones. I drilled 3 holes, and then I cleaned it out with my my knife, and then I came in there with a file and just touched it up a little bit. But this is for this Ford Blue, I have found that Tamiya's Sky Blue is the perfect match for it. It looks great on there. I still have to do a polish on this. I am going to polish this up and make it look a little bit more shiny than that. I don't want a high gloss on it, but I want it a little more smooth than this. So there we go with the engine. The exhaust, I used gunmetal on that, on both sides, just to give it a little bit of different color. And every single picture I've seen of these, it has a black engine block and a black intake. And that kind of set me off. I had to look 3 or 4 or 5 times just to make sure that I was looking at the right thing. And sure enough, that's what I've seen. So that's where we went with that. And I'll tell you what, with the blue on there, I think it really, really pops. So, and then the engine stand I'm really happy with. Just a quick bend with craft wire to give it something to hold off the ground so that the guys can stand around it and look cool. But there we go with the engine. Let me put this on before I move it away, just so I don't lose it. And see how that comes right down on top of the distributor cap. There's a hump over here, and I'm not sure if that was made wrong or why that's like that, but this is the way it fits on there, and that I know on every picture I've seen comes straight out the side, so I know that's right. But man, I'm happy with that engine. More detailed than I expected when I started getting into it. But what's funny, and I had somebody ask, this is part of the drive shaft. And then it comes to a V, and then the other piece, I guess, V's into this, and you're supposed to make them cross to look like the Universal. But that's the way it is. It's just funny. We'll see how it goes in the long run. Move that out the way. We're going to bring in one more really awesome thing, and then we're going to talk some sad. But it's okay, because I know what happened, and it won't happen to me again. Look at the steering wheel. That's got some really great detail in it. I'm using Tamiya's, this is flat white. I'll put a clear coat on it eventually when I do the clear coat on the Molotov pen. And that's all I used for the chrome is liquid chrome from Molotov. It stays soft. I'm going to let that dry for about a week, and then I'm going to come in with a brush and some quick shine, and I'll go over top of that, and that'll harden it and set it. And when I do that, I'll do the steering wheel too, and that'll make that that'll gloss that up nice. So there is that. And now let me bring the body over here and talk my woes. First thing that happened with this is last week when I was painting it, I got the trunk lid painted and I got the hood painted, and they looked really good. I set them off to the side and I started painting this, and I got 3 coats on everything, and it was the 3rd coat on this. I just finished it up. I brought it over to set down, and I had a fly stuck on my hood, and you can still see some of the marks, but it was stuck here. But that dang thing landed over here and walked across all the way over, and it ended up getting stuck right there. So I had to sand all that down and redo all that, and to get the fly off, but it came out good. I'm happy with that. I'll get a clear coat on that, and it'll shine up really nice. And with the red, that's going to look really, really good. So we're good to go here. Look at that fit in there nice. We're good to go here with the white. Every picture I've seen, when it's got a white top, the firewall is white. So I left the firewall. I did drill the 2 holes in the firewall here. Well, really one elongated hole. That's where the heater core is going to, or the heater hoses are going to go. The heater fan tucks up here, and it'll come right up close to this. So if you ever do get this and you want to put your radiator hoses in, or your heater hoses in, make sure you put your heater body in place before you drill these holes, or else you're going to end up being in the wrong spot. I really wanted to drill these farther over, but I set that in there, and it comes up right next to them, right where it should be. So that's good. And like I said, this is going to all be white. The sides and the front will be black. So I got the white in there. I'm letting it harden up for a few days, and then I'll do the black. The bottle, I'm going to get a couple more pictures of, because I've seen it blue, I've seen it gray. I want to just make sure where I'm going with that. The back painted up nice, not too bad, but I have a problem with the sides and the roof. Let me bring it over here, and it's been driving me crazy. I've had this happen to me a couple of times now, and I'm not sure, or I wasn't sure why until tonight, and I finally put 2 and 2 together, and I figured out what's going on. Look at the fisheye going on here, and it's pretty bad. I'm going to sand this down, and then I'll hit it again with the X7. But I had this happen to me now twice. This is the 2nd time. The first time I scratched my head, I thought, what did I do wrong? You know, it's me, or there was something on the thing. Well, this time, I had this with Vallejo's, I think it's Gall Gray, is called primer. I sprayed the primer on there about a week ago or so with everything else, you know, and it looked really good. I hit it with, I think it was 2500 grit, 1500 grit sandpaper. I sanded all that down with 1500 grit after the primer was on. I went over and I hit it with the primer, and it did the same thing it did to me with the other. It fisheyed for no reason, and it didn't show up until it was almost dry, and then it started to pull away. So it's something in that primer that's doing this. So I'm going to sand this back down smooth, and I found that if I sand the red down until it's all smooth again, I can go ahead and put a coat over top of this, and it'll get rid of all that. I won't have to just completely go down to bare. I'm not going to strip this. More for a test to see where it goes than anything else. But it fish-eyed like crazy after it sat for about 5 minutes or so, or even longer. The body did the same thing. And I'm fortunate it didn't do it on the top side up here for some reason, but it sure did it on the flats. And it did it on both sides. This side showed, and this side actually showed up a little bit earlier than that side did. So there we go with that. The back, I'm going to have to come in. Believe it or not, on the back, the part that's going to be covered up did it a little bit, but the part that's going to show right in here, it did it a lot. So I'm going to have to get in there and get real fancy sanding that out. But I'll sand it out and we'll get another coat of paint on it. But, I mean, other than the paint being crap, the look of it is going to be great with this big piece of chrome that comes down and around. This is going to look sharp with the red and with the white. But again, I think it is the Vallejo primer and the gloss colors, because it doesn't do it on the flat. It only does it with the gloss coat. So I just don't think my Vallejo primer, and it is quite old, so I'm wondering if it went bad or something. But I'm going to stop using it with this. Let me grab my spoon real quick, and I'll show you. And this is what's telling me it's not me, it's not my mix, it's the primer. Because this is what I got for the top. All right, and it, like I said, it did not show up until it was dry. You know, it started to pull apart right at the end. It was separating on it. Like it was, there wasn't enough surface tension to hold the paint in place. But if I flip this over, and this was my test, I painted this with no primer. And it stayed good. It stayed, and I did it exactly the same way as I did the top. So that's telling me that it's something in that primer that's causing that. So just a heads up for that. And I don't know. Like I said, this did real good, and I didn't even dust this. You know, I shot this and I was like, you know what, that's Vallejo. I had it happen a little bit with the white, but it was minor. The fly did way more damage than that, so I kind of just didn't think much of it. But dang it, it sure showed up here. And I thought, when I was setting up, I was like, let me see how this goes. And I sprayed it. It looked great. And I thought, you know what? Let's do the inside where there is no primer. And I sprayed it. And that looked great too. And that dried perfect. And where the primer is, it didn't. So let me know in the comments if anybody else has had any problems like this using Vallejo primer with the Tamiya paint. I know I shouldn't be mixing, but man, I've used it with flat, with, you know, my battleships and all my warships and airplanes for years and years and years and never had a problem. I've used it a couple of times with the cars and never had a problem. But 9 times out of 10, I don't use primer when I use the cars because they're already white, and Tamiya paint grabs so tight. Let me see if I have, yeah. Here's the blue that I painted for the other one, and you can't scratch that. There's no primer on there. You can't scratch that at all. So that's why I don't usually use primer. But with this, I had to, because this is yellow. And I know that I did not want an orange car. And I know I didn't want to put 50 coats to make it red. So I wanted to go a little bit darker red, so I went with the Vallejo. And now I'm, again, wishing I didn't, but I did. So this will be a good one to show how I can fix this. My next update, this is going to be shiny red. So there we go. And you can see the difference. No primer and primer. And actually this, I just shot real quick. I didn't even do the final coat on it. So this is just 2 coats when I was testing out that new compressor of mine. And then this is 3 coats like I always do. And it sure as heck separated. So there we go. But everything else, the small stuff and anything that had a little bit of texture to it, look at the underside. Where it had the texture to it, it laid down there beautifully. Where it was flat, it just separated off of that primer. So let me know in the comments if y'all have had any problems with it. But that's the second time, and I think I'm done using the Vallejo primer with Tamiya paint. But I am having some really good results with everything else. And sure, that's a little bit of a setback, but it's nothing that's not repairable. And it's not going to be that hard. I'll hit that with probably 800 grit sandpaper to start, and I'll work my way up to 2500, and that'll smooth right out. And if I do blow through it, then I do, and we'll go from there. But I'll let y'all know in the next update how this works out, so stand by. But still, I love the color combination with the white and the red, and then the chrome's going to come in here and look fantastic. Thank goodness it didn't mess up where the Fairlane 500 is on here. I mean, that would have been bad news. And now the last thing I want to show you, and I'm super happy with this, other than playing dodgeball with Wayne here, is I did some chrome work. And I mean, everybody does clear chrome on, or clear on the chrome, and makes it look good. Orange and the red. I also did the 500 on the chrome in the back, and the Skyliner on these in gold, because that's the way they were. Everything I saw. I'm hoping that's focusing because I can't see. But one thing I did do that I haven't done before, and I'm going to do from now on, is my backup lights. I hope you can see that, because what I did with those is I painted them flat white. And I know you're saying that is not flat white, but it is. It's flat white, and then it sat for probably 2 or 3 days, and then I hit it with a really light coat of panel liner, and then let it sit for, I don't know, I hit it, let it sit for maybe long enough to screw the panel liner in on both sides, and then I came back with a Q-tip and I went around both of them, and I'm telling you, that looks like clear plastic now. So give it a try and see what you think. But it was one of those things that I just kind of wanted to highlight around it, and when I touched it, it wicked right up onto that flat paint, like panel liner will do. It'll spread like crazy on flat. And I was like, uh-oh. So I grabbed the Q-tip and I hit it, and look at wow, that worked out. So it was a mistake that fixed itself. And then I did a light panel liner on the rims too. But I want to darken them up a little bit more than that, so they stand out some more. The front grille came out good. I'm happy as heck with it. And I'm telling you, those backup lights are the best I've ever gotten away with. So I'm super happy with those. And on that note, I will let you go. So thank you again for watching. Like I said, leave me comments if you had problems like that, because that's pretty gnarly. But I know I can fix it because I did on another one, and it came out smooth as a baby's behind. So I will leave you go at that. I am Mark, and this is Grandpa Mark's Hobbies, and you all have a great weekend. Thank you again for watching.